The massive ship floated in the darkness of space like a metal mountain. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of the Sovereign's Wrath, his 4 blue arms folded behind his back. Through the huge windows he could see 200 Imperial warships, spread out in perfect formation. They had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. "Sir, all ships report ready," said his second-in-command, Commander Veltar. The younger officer's scales gleamed under the bridge lights as he checked his datapad. Kethver nodded slowly. His yellow eyes focused on the rebel base ahead of them. Kepler Station looked like a giant rock floating in space, but he knew better. Inside that asteroid were thousands of rebels who had dared to fight against the Empire. Today, their rebellion would end. "Begin the final scan," Kethver ordered. "I want to know exactly how many weapons they have left." Lieutenant Ben Clark sat at his sensor station, his human fingers moving quickly over the controls. None of the alien crew members knew he was from Earth. They thought he was from a small colony, world called New Terra. It was better that way. Humans were not supposed to be smart enough to operate advanced technology. Ben had been on this ship for 2 years, learning everything he could about the Empire's military. His real job was to send information back to Earth, but he had grown to like some of his crewmates. They were not all bad, even if they served a government that treated other species like slaves. "Sir, I'm getting strange readings," Ben said, looking at his screens with surprise. "What kind of readings?" Kethver asked, walking over to Ben's station. "There's something coming out of hyperspace, but it's not showing up in our ship database. The energy pattern is completely unknown." Commander Veltar moved to another console. "All ships, this is the flagship. Do any of you have contacts approaching our position?" Several voices came back over the communication system. "Negative, flagship. Nothing on our sensors." "Wait," Ben said, his voice getting more excited. "I'm seeing it now. Something big is coming out of hyperspace about 50,000 kilometers to our right." On the main screen, space began to bend and twist. Blue and white lights flashed as something pushed through from hyperspace into normal space. The Imperial officers watched in silence as a ship appeared where nothing had been before, thought it was unlike anything they had ever seen. The ship was long and narrow, with sharp angles that seemed to cut through space itself. Its hull was a dark gray color that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Strange blue lines ran along its sides, pulsing with energy. "What is that thing?" "Commander," Veltar whispered. Admiral Kethver studied the unknown ship carefully. In 30 years of military service, he had seen vessels from every known species in the galaxy. This was something new. "Run a full scan," he ordered. "I want to know everything about that ship." Ben's fingers flew over his controls, but the results made no sense. "Sir, the sensors are having trouble getting a clear reading. It's like the hull is designed to block our scans." "How big is it?" Kethver asked. "About 800 meters long. Much smaller than our dreadnoughts, but bigger than our destroyers." The unknown ship moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. It changed direction without showing any signs of engine burn. There were no visible weapons, no communication arrays, no markings of any kind. "Sir, it's heading straight for us," Ben reported, trying to keep his voice steady. Commander Veltar checked his own instruments. "Confirmed. Current course will bring it right through the center of our formation." Admiral Kethver had commanded fleets in dozens of battles, but he had never faced a situation like this. The unknown ship was clearly advanced, maybe even more advanced than Imperial technology. But who had built it? Every spacefaring species in the galaxy was either part of the Empire or known to Imperial intelligence. "Open a channel to all ships," Kethver ordered. "Battle Formation Delta. Keep weapons powered, but do not target the unknown vessel until I give the order." The Imperial fleet began to move, 200 massive warships shifting into a defensive. pattern. The unknown ship continued on its course, seemingly unconcerned by the military force surrounding it. "Sir, should we try to contact them?" Commander Veltar asked. "Yes, open all frequencies. Let's see if they want to talk." Ben activated the communication system and sent out a standard first contact message in the common galactic language. They waited for a response, but the unknown ship remained silent. "Try the emergency frequencies," Kethver said. Still nothing. The ship kept moving toward them, its blue energy lines pulsing brighter as it got closer. "Admiral," Ben said quietly, "I'm detecting some very strange energy readings from that ship. The power output is incredible, but I can't identify the source." "What do you mean?" "It's not fusion, not antimatter, not any kind of reactor we know about. But whatever it is, it's producing more power than 3 of our dreadnoughts combined." "Admiral." Kethver felt a chill run down his spine. The Empire ruled the galaxy because it had the best technology and the strongest military. But this ship suggested that somewhere out there was a species with abilities that might match or exceed their own. "Sir, the ship is slowing down," Commander Veltar reported. "It's stopping right in the middle of our formation." The unknown vessel came to a complete halt exactly halfway between the Imperial fleet and the Rebel base. It hung there in space, like a silent challenge, its hull absorbing the light from the nearby star. "Distance to target?" Kethver asked. 20 kilometers from the flagship, sir. It's close enough to ram us if it wanted to." But the ship just waited, as if its captain was studying the Imperial fleet just as carefully as they were studying it. The tension on the bridge grew thick as everyone wondered what would happen next. Admiral Kethver made his decision. Whatever this ship was, wherever it came from, he needed answers. The Empire's security might depend on it. "Send another message," he ordered. "Tell them they are in Imperial space and must identify themselves immediately." Ben sent the message and waited. This time, they got a response. The communication system crackled to life. A clear voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect galactic standard language with a strange accent that none of the Imperial officers recognized. "This is Captain Lisa Wong of the Earth vessel. Defiant Spirit, we are here for our people." Admiral Kethver stared at the communication panel in confusion. Commander Veltar looked just as puzzled. Lieutenant Ben Clark felt his heart start beating faster, but he kept his face calm and continued working at his station. "Earth?" Commander Veltar said quietly. "Sir, according to our records, Earth is a primitive world. The species there barely has spaceflight." Admiral Kethver activated his personal datapad and searched the Imperial database. The entry for Earth was short and simple. Class 7 civilization, pre-warp technology. No military threat. Population engaged in basic agriculture and simple manufacturing. "There must be some mistake," Veltar said. "That ship is clearly advanced technology." The Admiral opened a channel to respond. "Captain Wang, this is Admiral Kethver of the Imperial Fleet. Our records show Earth as a non-spacefaring world. Please explain your presence in Imperial space." "Your records are wrong, Admiral. We've been watching you for a long time." The words sent a chill through the bridge crew. Ben Clark tried to look surprised like everyone else, but inside he was proud. Earth had fooled the entire Galactic Empire for decades. "Watching us?" Admiral Kethver repeated. "That's impossible." "We have monitoring stations throughout this sector." "You have monitoring stations watching for the kind of technology you understand," Captain Wang replied. "Our ships use different methods," Commander Veltar whispered to the Admiral. "Sir, should we consider this a threat?" Before Kethver could answer, the unknown ship began to move. It didn't accelerate like normal vessels. Instead, it seemed to slide through space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to it. The ship moved between 2 Imperial dreadnoughts, passing so close that their shields almost touched. "How is it doing that?" Veltar asked, watching the displays in amazement. Ben Clark studied his sensor readings. The human ship showed no engine emissions, no reaction mass, no energy signatures that made sense according to Imperial science. Sir, I'm not detecting any conventional propulsion. It's like the ship is moving space around itself instead of moving through space. That's impossible, the Admiral said. Captain Wang, Kethfer called over the communication system. You mentioned our people. What people? The humans in your fleet, Admiral. The ones you call colonists and workers. The ones you've been using as cheap labor because you think we're too primitive to notice. Admiral Kethfer felt his stomach sink. He knew there were humans working throughout the Imperial fleet. They were considered one of the more useful primitive species because they could learn to operate basic equipment. Most Imperial officers barely paid attention to them. How many humans are in this fleet? He asked Commander Veltar quietly. Veltar checked his personnel records. About 300. Sir, they work in engineering, food service, maintenance. Standard support roles for primitive species. Ben Clark listened to this conversation and felt angry. 300 of his people were working as servants on these ships, treated like they were barely intelligent. He wondered how many of them were actually intelligence agents like himself. Admiral, Captain Wang's voice came through the speakers again. We know you have humans working on at least 50 of your ships. We want them returned to us. Captain Wang, those humans signed work contracts with the Empire. They are not prisoners. Did they sign those contracts knowing that Earth had spacefaring technology? Did they know they could call on their own military for protection? The question hung in the air. Admiral Kethfer realized that if humans really did have advanced technology, then the work contracts might not be legal under Imperial law. Workers from primitive worlds were treated differently than those from advanced civilizations. Sir, Commander Veltar said quietly, if Earth really has this level of technology, then we may have been violating several Imperial treaties. The defiant spirit continued its impossible dance through the Imperial fleet. It moved between ships that were kilometers long as if they were standing still. Ben Clark watched his sensors and saw something that made his eyes go wide. Admiral, the human ship is scanning us. Our shields should block any scans. Sir, their scans are going right through our shields like they're not even there. They're reading our entire computer system. Admiral Kethfer felt a growing sense of dread. His fleet of 200 ships suddenly felt very small and vulnerable. Captain Wang, please stop scanning our vessels. We're just checking on the welfare of our people, Admiral. Some of them haven't been treated very well. What do you mean? We know about the punishment cells on the Sword of Justice. We know about the 14-hour work shifts on the Crimson Star. We know about the medical experiments on the research vessel Hidden Truth. Each ship name hit Admiral Kethfer like a physical blow. Those were classified operations. The fact that the humans knew about them meant their intelligence capabilities were far beyond anything the Empire had imagined. How do you know all this? He asked. We told you, Admiral. We've been watching. Did you really think a species could develop spaceflight without learning how to be careful? Earth has been monitoring the galaxy for 30 years. Commander Veltar looked at his admiral with fear in his eyes. Sir, if they've been watching us for 30 years, they know everything about our military capabilities, our trade routes, our weaknesses. The defiant spirit came to a stop directly in front of the flagship, only 5 kilometers away. At this distance, Ben Clark could see details of its hull construction. The ship was beautiful in a way that Imperial vessels were not. We're Imperial. Ships were built for intimidation and raw power. This human ship was built for efficiency and grace. Admiral Kethfer, Captain Wang said, we're going to collect our people now. We hope you won't try to stop us. And if we do try to stop you, then you'll learn why Earth kept its technology secret for so long. We preferred to watch and learn rather than fight. but we will fight if we have to." The threat was delivered in the same calm, professional voice, but somehow that made it more frightening than if she had shouted. Admiral Kethver looked around his bridge at his crew. These were experienced military officers who had conquered dozens of worlds. But now they looked uncertain and afraid. He had to make a choice. He could order his fleet to attack the single human ship. But if Earth really did have the technology this ship demonstrated, attacking might be the biggest mistake in Imperial history. "Captain Wang," he said slowly, "I think we need to talk." Admiral Kethver stood silent for a long moment, thinking about his options. Behind him, his bridge crew waited nervously. The human ship floated in front of them like a silent threat. Finally, he made his decision. "Captain Wang, I cannot simply release Imperial workers without proper authorization. I must contact Fleet Command." "You have 1 hour, Admiral," came the reply. "After that, we take action." Commander Veltar moved closer to the Admiral. "Sir, we cannot let them threaten us. The Empire has never backed down to anyone." Kethver nodded slowly. He understood his duty to the Empire. But he also understood that this situation was beyond anything in the military handbook. Still, he had to show strength. "All ships, this is Admiral Kethver. Target the unknown vessel. Prepare to fire warning shots on my command." Throughout the Imperial fleet, massive weapons began turning toward the defiant spirit. Energy readings spiked as plasma cannons charged to full power. Ben Clark watched his instruments and felt his stomach twist with worry. "Sir, 3 destroyers have target lock," Commander Veltar reported. "Fire warning shots. I want them to understand we are serious." The 3 Imperial destroyers opened fire at the same time. Bright streams of superheated plasma shot across space toward the human ship. Ben Clark held his breath, hoping the human shields were as good as Earth's scientists claimed. The plasma beams hit the defiant spirit and simply disappeared. There was no explosion, no shield flare, nothing. The deadly energy just vanished as if it had never existed. What happened? Admiral Kethver demanded. Ben Clark stared at his readings in amazement. "Sir, the plasma was absorbed completely. I'm not reading any shield activity at all. It's like their hull just soaked up the energy. For 10 seconds, nothing happened." Then the human ship's blue lines began glowing brighter. The energy that had been absorbed was being redirected somehow. "Sir," Ben said with growing alarm, massive energy spiked from the human vessel. The defiant spirit fired a single beam back at the Imperial fleet. But instead of splitting the energy 3 ways, it focused everything into one target. The beam hit the destroyer crushing fist and passed right through its shields as if they weren't there. But the ship wasn't destroyed. Instead, every light on the crushing fist went dark. The massive warship began drifting, its engines dead, its weapons silent. "Report!" Admiral Kethver shouted. The communication system crackled as Captain Torres of the Crushing Fist tried to respond. "Admiral, all systems are down. Everything just stopped working. My crew is alive, but we have no power at all." "How is that possible?" Captain Wang's voice came through the speakers again. "That was your warning shot, Admiral. Our next response won't be so gentle." Commander Veltar looked pale. "Sir, they disabled a heavy destroyer with 1 shot, without killing anyone." Before Admiral Kethver could respond, something small launched from the defiant spirit. It looked like a single fighter craft, but it moved unlike anything in the Imperial database. "Single fighter launching from the human ship," Ben Clark reported. "1 fighter against our entire fleet," Veltar said. "Are they insane?" The small craft began moving through the Imperial formation at incredible speed. It darted between the massive warships like a fish swimming through rocks. Every few seconds, it would fire a tiny beam at one of the Imperial vessels. "Sir, the fighter is disabling our weapon systems," came a report from the battlecruiser Iron Thunder. Our plasma cannons just went offline. More reports flooded in. This is the Stellar Sword. All missile launchers are down. Red Giant reporting. Main gun arrays not responding. The small fighter craft continued its work, systematically disabling weapons throughout the fleet. Imperial gunners tried to target it, but their computers couldn't get a lock. The craft moved too fast and too unpredictably. How many weapons have we lost? Admiral Keffer asked. Commander Veltar checked the reports. 40% of our firepower is offline, sir. And the rate is increasing. Ben Clark listened to the pilot of the fighter craft communicating with other Imperial ships. The voice was young and confident, and it spoke perfect galactic standard. This is Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez. Please power down your remaining weapons. We don't want to hurt anyone, but we won't let you threaten our ship. Admiral Keffer felt his world changing around him. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 300 years because no one could match their military technology. But these humans were making his fleet look like children playing with toys. Admiral, Ben Clark said quietly, I need to tell you something. Keffer turned to look at the young human at the sensor station. For the first time, he really noticed Ben's appearance. The round ears, the pale skin, the strange hair color. You're human, he said. Ben nodded. My name is Jake Martinez. I'm a commander in Earth's intelligence service. I've been on your ship for 2 years. Commander Veltar reached for his weapon, but Admiral Keffer held up a hand to stop him. You've been spying on us. Keffer said. Double quotes, yes, sir. But I want you to know that I've grown to respect many of the people on this ship. You're not evil. You're just part of a system that treats other species badly. How many humans are in the Imperial fleet? About half of the 300 you counted are intelligence agents like me. The rest are real workers who volunteered for the job. Admiral Keffer felt dizzy. His own sensor operator was an enemy spy. Half the humans in his fleet were probably gathering information about Imperial military secrets. How long has Earth been watching us? He asked. Since your first scout ships entered our solar system 32 years ago. We saw you coming and decided to prepare. Why didn't you make contact officially? Jake Martinez looked sad. Because we studied your history, Admiral. Every species that contacted the Empire had 2 choices: join as servants or be conquered. We decided to choose a third option. The fighter craft finished its work and returned to the Defiant Spirit. Throughout the Imperial fleet, weapon systems were offline. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been neutralized by 1 ship and 1 pilot. Admiral, Captain Wang said over the communication system, we've disabled your weapons. But we haven't hurt your crews. We're hoping you'll see this as a demonstration of good faith. Good faith? Commander Veltar said angrily. You've attacked Imperial vessels. We've protected ourselves, Captain Wang replied calmly. There's a difference. Admiral Keffer looked out at his fleet of dead weapons and disabled ships. Then he looked at Jake Martinez, who had been serving faithfully on his bridge while secretly working for another government. What do you want from us? He asked Captain Wang. Right now, we want our people back. After that, we want to talk about the future. What future? The future where humans and the Empire find a better way to coexist. Where species aren't classified as primitive just because they choose to develop technology differently. Admiral Keffer realized that everything he had believed about the galaxy was wrong. The Empire wasn't the most advanced civilization. They had been watched and studied by a species they thought was primitive. And now he had to decide what to do about it. Admiral Keffer stared at the disabled weapons on his command screen. His mighty fleet now looked helpless against the single human ship. The silence on the bridge felt heavy as everyone waited for his next order. Sir, Commander Veltar whispered. We need to contact Fleet Command immediately. Before Kethver could respond, new contacts appeared on the sensors. Jake Martinez checked his instruments and felt both pride and worry at what he saw. "Admiral, more ships are coming out of hyperspace," Jake reported. "Imperial reinforcements?" Veltar asked hopefully. "No, sir." The energy signatures matched the Defiant. "Spirit." 3 more human vessels dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Each ship was different in design, but shared the same sleek, efficient appearance. The blue energy lines that ran along their hulls pulsed in sync, like a heartbeat. "This is Captain Rick Thompson of the New Horizon," came a new voice over the communication system. "Captain Wang, we're in position." "Acknowledged, Rick. Amy." "What's your status?" a woman's voice answered. "Commander Amy Foster of the Pioneer's Edge." "All systems ready, Lisa." Admiral Kethver felt his heart sink. 4 advanced human ships now faced his fleet of 200 vessels. But after seeing what one ship could do, the numbers didn't seem to matter anymore. "Captain Wang," Kethver said, "you now have 4 ships. Do you really think you can take on the entire Imperial fleet?" "Admiral, we don't want to fight you at all, but if we have to, yes. We can." Jake Martinez looked at his instruments and saw something that made his stomach twist. "Sir, I'm detecting a massive hyperspace signature approaching. Something big is coming." The space around them began to bend and twist again, but this time, the distortion was enormous. When it cleared, 50 Imperial dreadnoughts appeared in formation. These were the newest ships in the Imperial fleet, commanded by Admiral Zector, the most ruthless officer in the Empire. "This is Admiral Zector of the Imperial Strike Force," came a harsh voice over the communication system. "Admiral Kethver, report your status immediately." Kethver activated his private channel to speak with his superior. "Admiral Gector, we have encountered unknown vessels with advanced technology. They have disabled most of our weapons." "Impossible. What species dares to attack Imperial forces?" "They claim to be from Earth, sir." There was a long pause before Jector responded. "Earth is a primitive world. You're telling me that primitives have defeated your fleet?" "Sir, their technology appears to be more advanced than ours." "Admiral Kethver, you will immediately destroy these vessels and capture their technology." "That is a direct order from the Imperial Council." Jake Martinez felt his blood run cold. Admiral Zector was known throughout the galaxy for his cruelty. Unlike Kethver, who still had some honor, Zector would destroy anything that threatened. "Imperial power." Captain Wang's voice came over the open channel. "Admiral Gector, this is Captain Wang of Earth. We can hear your communications. We know what you're planning." "Primitive scum, you dare to threaten the Empire?" "We're not threatening anyone. We're protecting our people and offering to talk. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives." The new Imperial ships began moving into attack formation. Their weapons powered up, creating an energy field that made space itself glow with deadly light. Jake Martinez made a decision that would change his life forever. He stood up from his station and walked to the center of the bridge. "Admiral Kethver, I request permission to speak." "Jake, now is not the time," Kethver said. "Sir, with respect, now is exactly the time." Jake turned to face the entire bridge. "Crew, I am Commander Jake Martinez of Earth Intelligence. I have served on this ship for 2 years. In that time, I have learned that most of you are good people who believe you are serving a just cause." Commander Veltar raised his weapon, but Admiral Kethver again stopped him. "Continue," Kethver said. "The Empire classifies species by their technology, not by their intelligence or their character. You think humans are primitive because we chose to develop our technology in secret. But we've been studying the galaxy for decades. We know which species the Empire has enslaved, which worlds have been stripped of resources, which cultures have been destroyed." "That is military necessity," Commander Veltar said. "Is it?" The rebels at Kepler Station aren't fighting because they're evil. They're fighting because they want freedom. The same freedom that Earth has maintained by staying hidden. Admiral. Kepler looked out at the human ships, then at the approaching Imperial strike force. What are you asking me to do? I'm asking you to choose. You can follow Admiral Zictor's orders and try to destroy us. Some of your people will die, and all of ours will fight back. Or you can help us find a better way. Admiral Kepler. Zictor's voice boomed over the communication system. Why are you allowing a primitive to speak on your bridge? Captain Wang's voice cut through the tension. Admiral Kepler, we're going to show you something. We want you to understand what Earth has been preparing for. The 4 human ships moved into a diamond formation. The blue lines on their hulls began glowing brighter than before. Jake Martinez watched his sensors and saw energy readings that made his eyes go wide. What are they doing? Commander Veltar asked. I think they're about to show us their real capabilities, Jake said quietly. Space around the human ships began to change. The stars seemed to bend, and the light from the nearby sun shifted color. The 4 vessels were doing something to space itself, something that Imperial science said was impossible. Admiral Zictor, Captain Wang said calmly, you should know that Earth has been in contact with 17 other species that the Empire considers primitive. We've been sharing technology and information for 20 years. Impossible. We've also been monitoring your communications with the Imperial Council. We know about the planned invasion of the Sol system. We know about the resource extraction. Plans for 47 worlds. We know about the prison camps on the Outer Rim. Admiral Kepler felt the weight of these revelations. If the humans really had this much information, they knew more about Imperial operations than most Imperial officers. Sir, Jake said quietly, Captain Wang is offering you a choice that your government never gave to other species. She's offering partnership instead of conquest. The Imperial strike force finished its approach. Admiral Zector had 150 ships ready to attack 4 human vessels. But somehow, the humans didn't seem worried. Admiral Kepler, Captain Wang said, we need your answer now. Will you help us find peace, or will you let Admiral Zector start a war that will change the galaxy forever? Admiral Kepler looked around his bridge at his crew. These people had served with him for years. They trusted his judgment. Whatever he decided would affect not just his fleet, but possibly the entire Empire. The rebels at Kepler Station had been watching the entire confrontation. Now their leader sent a message to both fleets. This is Commander Sarah Brooks of the Kepler Resistance. If the humans are willing to stand against the Empire, then we stand with them. Admiral Kepler realized that this moment would be remembered in history books. The choice he made would determine whether the galaxy continued under Imperial rule or found a new path forward. He looked at Jake Martinez, who had served faithfully despite being an enemy agent. He looked at the human ships, which had shown mercy even when they had overwhelming power. Then he looked at the display showing Admiral Zictor's fleet, ready to destroy anything that challenged Imperial authority. Admiral Kepler made his choice. Admiral Kepler took a deep breath and opened a channel to his entire fleet. His voice was steady as he spoke words that would change galactic history. All ships of the Southern Fleet, this is Admiral Kepler. Stand down all weapons. Do not target the human vessels. That is a direct order. The bridge fell silent. Commander Veltar stared at his admiral in shock. Sir, Admiral Zector ordered us to attack. Admiral Zector's orders will lead to unnecessary death, Kepler replied. I will not sacrifice my crews for Imperial pride. Admiral Zector's voice exploded over the communication system. Kepler, you are disobeying direct orders. I will have you executed for treason. Perhaps, Kepler said calmly. But my conscience will be clear. Captain Wang's voice came through the speakers, warm with respect. "Admiral Kefver, thank you. You've chosen wisdom over pride." Jake Martinez felt a surge of relief. He had hoped that Kefver would make this choice, but he hadn't been certain. The Admiral was a good man trapped in a bad system. Admiral Zichter's fleet began moving forward, weapons charging. "If Kefver won't destroy you, then I will. All ships, target the primitive vessels." The 4 human ships moved into a new formation. The space around them began to shimmer and bend. Jake Martinez watched his sensors and saw readings that made no sense according to Imperial science. "What are they doing?" Commander Veltar asked. "Something impossible," Jake replied. Captain Wang's voice filled the communication channels. But this time she wasn't speaking to the Imperial fleets. She was broadcasting to the entire galaxy. "This is Captain Lisa Wang of Earth. For 30 years, humanity has watched the Galactic Empire from the shadows. We have seen species enslaved, worlds stripped of resources, and cultures destroyed. Today, that changes. Throughout the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, beings stopped what they were doing to listen to the transmission. The Empire's communication networks carried the signal to every corner of Imperial space. The Empire tells you that humans are primitive. But we have technology that your scientists say is impossible. We have ships that move without engines. We have weapons that disable rather than destroy. Most importantly, we have something the Empire has forgotten." Admiral Zichter's ships opened fire on the human vessels. Streams of plasma and missile barrages filled the space between the fleets. But when the weapons reached the human ships, something extraordinary happened. The attack simply stopped. Not absorbed, not deflected, but stopped completely. The plasma beams hung in space like frozen lightning. The missiles floated motionless, their engines dead. "We have hope, Captain." Wang continued her broadcast. "Hope that different species can work together as equals. Hope that the galaxy can be governed by cooperation instead of fear." The frozen weapons began to move again, but now they turned around. The plasma beams and missiles flew back toward Admiral Zichter's fleet. But instead of causing destruction, they simply shut down the ship's weapon systems, just as the human fighter had done to Kefver's fleet. "Impossible!" Admiral Zichter screamed. "No species has this kind of power." Jake Martinez smiled as he watched the display. Earth scientists had spent 30 years developing technology based on completely different principles than Imperial science. While the Empire focused on bigger weapons and stronger shields, humanity had learned to manipulate space and time itself. Captain Rick Thompson's voice joined the broadcast. "This is the new horizon. We're transmitting the locations of every prison camp, every slave world, and every species the Empire has classified as primitive. It's time for the truth." Commander Amy Foster added her voice. "This is the Pioneer's Edge. We're sharing our technology with any species that wants to build a better future. The Empire's monopoly on advanced science ends today." Throughout the galaxy, beings on oppressed worlds heard the message. On the mining world of Kepler-7, enslaved workers looked up at the sky with new hope. On the research station at Vega Prime, scientists realized they had been lied to about the limits of physics. Admiral Zichter tried to regain control of the situation. "This is Imperial territory. You have no authority here." "We have the authority of free beings who refuse to accept tyranny," Captain Wang replied. Admiral Kefver understood this. That's why he chose peace. The rebel base at Kepler Station began broadcasting its own message. Commander Sarah Brooks spoke to every resistance cell in the galaxy. "The humans have shown us that the Empire can be challenged. Today we stop hiding. Today we fight for freedom." Admiral Kefver opened a channel to Admiral Zichter. "Sir, I recommend we begin negotiations with the human representatives." "Negotiations with primitives? Never. Sir, they have just demonstrated technology that makes our entire fleet obsolete. Continuing to fight will only result in more ships. Being disabled. Jake Martinez stood up from his station and faced Admiral Kethver. "Sir, permission to contact Earth Command?" Kethver nodded. "Permission granted, Commander Martinez." Jake activated his hidden communication device and spoke in the human language. Within minutes, more human ships began arriving. Not just military vessels, but science ships, exploration craft, and diplomatic transports. Captain Wang's voice filled the communication channels again. "We're establishing a communication network that spans the entire galaxy. Every species, every world, every being will have a voice in how the galaxy is governed." Admiral Ziekter's remaining ships found themselves surrounded by human vessels that appeared from nowhere. His weapons were useless, his shields ineffective. For the first time in his career, he was completely outmatched. "This isn't over," he shouted. "You're right," Captain Wang replied. "It's just beginning." 6 months later, Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of a new kind of ship. The vessel was built using both human and Imperial technology, crewed by beings from a dozen different species. He wore the uniform of an admiral in the newly formed Galactic Coalition. The old empire had crumbled not through war, but through revelation. When other species learned that humans had been watching and learning for decades, they began to question everything the empire had told them. When they saw human technology that worked on completely different principles, they realized there were other ways to build civilization. Admiral Kethver served as Jake's second in command. The former Imperial officer had become one of the strongest supporters of the new government. "Status report, Admiral," he said. "The Andromeda expedition is ready to launch," Jake replied. 50 ships, 20 different species, all working together to explore beyond our galaxy. Through the view screen, they could see the fleet preparing to depart. Human ships flew alongside former Imperial vessels, their crews learning from each other. The universe suddenly seemed much larger and full of possibilities. Captain Wang had become the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council. Captain Thompson led the exploration fleet. Commander Foster headed the new technology sharing program. The galaxy was still healing from centuries of Imperial rule. But for the first time in generations, beings looked to the stars with hope instead of fear. The Empire had ruled through strength and intimidation. The Coalition governed through cooperation and understanding. As Jake watched the exploration fleet jump to hyperspace, he thought about the moment when everything changed. One ship appearing where it shouldn't be. One captain brave enough to challenge the most powerful force in the galaxy. One admiral wise enough to choose peace over war. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what it needed.